What if I told you that the most famous actor on earth has been invisible his entire life? What if I told you that a man who won everything the entertainment industry offers still wakes up feeling empty? What if I told you that Leonardo DiCaprio's greatest role was not on screen, but in his own life? A performance so convincing that even he forgot it was an act. At 51 years old, he stands at the absolute pinnacle. An Oscar winner, a billionaire, a man whose face is recognized in every corner of the planet. And yet, when the lights fade and the cameras go dark, he remains profoundly, devastatingly alone. This is not a story about success. It's a story about the price of success. About what happens when you spend half a century chasing validation and finally realize that winning was never actually the point. If you're ready to understand what the world doesn't see behind his carefully crafted image, if you want to know the real cost of fame at the highest level, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because what you're about to hear will change how you see not just Leonardo DiCaprio, but your own pursuit of meaning. This is the tragedy of a man who had everything except the one thing that matters. East Hollywood in the 1970s was not the paradise the postcards promised. It was survival. It was sirens and desperation, needle-covered sidewalks, and dreams dying faster than they were born. In a small apartment near Hollywood Boulevard and Western Avenue lived a woman and her son, battling poverty with the only weapons they had: hope and relentless persistence. Leonardo's childhood was not innocent. He was jumped for his bicycle. He witnessed violence that no child should see. He understood early that safety was a luxury his family could not afford. His mother, Ermeline, worked multiple jobs just to keep them floating. 3 bus rides across the city to auditions, walking when money ran short, sitting in waiting rooms filled with desperate families all chasing the same impossible dream. His father, George, an artist living on the margins, offered counterculture wisdom but no stability, weekends instead of daily presence. Good intentions that could never replace actual reliability. Young Leonardo learned a brutal lesson faster than most children. Life was not fair. Opportunity did not come to those who waited. But in that crucible of hardship, something unexpected was forged, not bitterness, but hunger, not defeat, but defiance. Leonardo began auditioning at 12, rejected more times than he was accepted, commercials, television spots, anything that paid. His mother never wavered, never let the rejection settle into his bones. "They're wrong," she would say. "We try again tomorrow." 3 buses. Every single day, mother and son against the world. By his late teens, he had booked small television roles. Growing pains gave him visibility, but it also gave him a cage, the cute television kid, a label that threatened to become a prison. He auditioned obsessively for films, desperate to escape before the box became too small to ever break free from. Then came 1993, This Boy's Life, directed by Michael Cotton-Jones, a film where he stood opposite Robert De Niro, one of cinema's greatest actors. Leonardo was 18 and terrified. He felt every ounce of his inexperience. But when the cameras rolled, something extraordinary happened. He did not just act. He channeled the pain of his own fractured childhood, the fear of his mother's struggles, the rage at a world that tried to keep them small. Critics noticed a revelation, they called him. A serious actor had emerged. But the industry moved slowly. Offers remained cautious. Doors stayed only slightly cracked. What kept him moving was a promise he made silently in his heart. "I will make this mean something. I will not let her sacrifice be for nothing." That hunger, that desperate need to prove himself worthy of his mother's investment, that became his fuel. In 1993, the same year critics first took notice, Leonardo delivered another performance. What's Eating Gilbert Grape opposite Johnny Depp? He played a teenager with developmental disabilities, and he disappeared into that character so completely that audiences forgot they were watching an actor. At 19, he stood among Hollywood's elite. An Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win, but the doors that had been cracked finally swung open. Then came 1996. Romeo plus Juliet, hyperkinetic, visually stunning, utterly captivating. Suddenly, Leonardo was not just respected, he was desired. His face exploded across magazine covers. Teenage girls sobbed at the sight of him. He had become something far more dangerous than an actor. He had become an object, a product, a poster. I felt like I was being sold. not celebrated, he would later admit, his voice tight with a frustration that never quite left. When James Cameron came calling for Titanic in 1997, Cameron actually did not want him. "You're too famous, too pretty, not right for this," the director said bluntly. But Leonardo fought. He read for the part, he screened. He refused to accept no from someone as stubborn as himself. Cameron relented, and in December 1997, Titanic was unleashed upon the world. The numbers were staggering. $2 billion in global box office, 11 Academy Awards, lines around theaters for months. And Leonardo DiCaprio, at just 23 years old, became the most famous man on the planet overnight. But fame, he discovered, was not triumph. It was a prison with velvet walls. The rejection started immediately. Paparazzi stalked him everywhere. His privacy was not just invaded, it was obliterated. He could not walk down a street without being swarmed. He could not eat a meal without being photographed. His humanity became public property, and the cruelest part was that Hollywood, which had once respected him, now saw him only as the Titanic guy. Casting directors dismissed him for serious roles. Directors assumed he was just a face. Critics sneered that his early Academy Award nomination was a fluke, that he was not an actor but a teenage idol playing dress-up. The Academy, which had recognized him at 19, now ignored him completely, despite Titanic's 11 Oscar wins. Including Best Picture, Leonardo received no nomination. The message was unmistakable. Box office success and artistic respect do not coexist, not for him. What followed was 2 decades of this pattern repeating itself. Film after film, performance after performance, all met with critical acclaim and industry respect. Yet the Oscar eluded him again and again and again. Gangs of New York with Martin Scorsese snubbed. The Aviator, a towering performance spanning 3 hours of brilliance, nominated but defeated by Jamie Foxx. The Wolf of Wall Street, explosive, fearless, unhinged in ways that should have been undeniable, nominated but passed over once more by 2014. He had 4 nominations and 0 wins. The memes were inescapable. Poor Leo. The internet said with cruel affection, Leonardo DiCaprio will never win an Oscar became gospel truth. Photoshopped images of him reaching for the statue forever out of reach flooded social media. What made it unbearable was not the losses themselves. It was what they represented. Validation from the institution he had given his entire life to. "It mattered to me more than I wanted to admit," he confessed years later, his voice barely above a whisper. More than it should have. By 2015, at 40 years old, Leonardo decided to risk everything on one final push. Christopher Nolan's director Alejandro González Iñárritu approached him with The Revenant, the true story of Hugh Glass, a frontiersman left for dead in the frozen wilderness, crawling through hell to survive. Iñárritu made his vision clear. "I need you to really suffer," he said, and Leonardo, carrying 2 decades of rejection in his chest, said yes. What followed was not filmmaking. It was endurance beyond reason. Temperatures dropped to -40 degrees. Leonardo spent hours submerged in frozen rivers, his body shaking so violently the crew feared he would not survive. He slept inside the carcass of a dead horse, the stench and cold seeping into his bones. He ate raw animal organs, the blood making him gag between takes. "I thought I would die out there," he later admitted. Not dramatically, literally. "My body was shutting down." But what kept him moving was not art. It was desperation, the unspoken, burning belief that if this level of sacrifice did not finally earn the Academy's respect, nothing ever would. When The Revenant premiered, the response was immediate and unanimous. "This is not acting. This is raw endurance," critics declared. On February 28, 2016, Leonardo sat in the Dolby Theater. 5th nomination, 5th time hoping, when his name was finally called. The theater erupted. 22 years, 5 nominations, finally. He walked to the stage holding the golden statue for the first time, and his hands shook, not from cold this time, but from something far more complex, relief mixed with exhaustion, vindication layered with emptiness. His speech was measured and gracious, focused on climate change rather than personal triumph. But those who knew him saw the truth in his eyes. This was not joy. This was the finish line of a marathon that had nearly destroyed him. And standing at that finish line, Oscar in hand, he realized something devastating, the thing he had chased for so long. The validation that had consumed him felt smaller than he imagined, heavier, stranger. But winning the Oscar did not heal him. It did not erase the years of rejection. It did not answer the question that haunted him in the silent hours. Was it worth it? The frozen rivers, the raw organs, the crawling through snow until his body broke. Was it worth a golden statue and applause that faded in days? Friends noticed something troubling in the years after his Oscar win. Leonardo did not celebrate. He withdrew. "I thought I would feel different," he admitted quietly to someone close. "I thought this would change something." The Oscar sat on a shelf. The achievement secured, the curse broken. But the man himself remained unchanged, still lonely, still searching, still unable to find meaning in any of the things he had won. His environmental activism became increasingly contradictory. He donated over $100 million to climate causes, produced documentaries, addressed the United Nations. But he flew private jets to deliver speeches about carbon reduction. He vacationed on $150 million yachts while warning of ocean pollution. He threw parties in Malibu mansions that consumed more electricity in a weekend than average families used in a month. The hypocrisy was not lost on critics. How can you demand sacrifices from ordinary people while refusing to make them yourself? They asked. His carbon footprint was estimated at over 400 tons annually, nearly 20 times that of an average American. When he accepted his Oscar and delivered a passionate climate speech, then flew to Cannes on a private jet days later, the internet erupted. Hypocrite trended for weeks. Leonardo's defense was measured but strained. "I offset my carbon footprint," he explained. "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." But the explanations felt hollow, because they revealed a fundamental contradiction at the core of his being. He wanted to save the world, but he was not willing to give up the privileges that came with being Leonardo DiCaprio. But perhaps the most haunting contradiction lies in his romantic life, a pattern so consistent it became impossible to ignore. Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the most eligible bachelors on the planet, exclusively dates women under 25. The list reads like a roster of supermodels, each relationship following an eerily predictable trajectory. A woman enters his life in her late teens or early 20s. She remains with him for a few years. And the moment she approaches her 25th birthday, the relationship ends. Reddit created something called Leo's Law, a viral graph tracking his age against his girlfriend's ages over 3 decades. His line climbed steadily upward from 25 to 51. Theirs remained frozen, hovering between 19 and 25, never rising above it, never allowed to age past that invisible ceiling. The memes were relentless, but they masked a deeper question: why? Why does a man in his 50s require his romantic partners to remain in their early 20s? What does that reveal about him? About his need for control? About his inability to connect with equals? Critics were not gentle. "It's creepy," some said. A 50-year-old man exclusively dating women barely out of college reveals a disturbing power dynamic. An older, wealthier, infinitely more famous man dating women young enough to have grown up idolizing him. "That is not a relationship," one commentator wrote. "That's a power imbalance masquerading as romance." Leonardo never addressed it directly. When asked, he deflects with practiced ease. "My personal life is private," he insists, and technically, legally, he is right. Every relationship involved consenting adults. No laws broken, no accusations of abuse. But the silence itself became deafening. The refusal to engage with the pattern. The steadfast insistence on privacy looked to many like avoidance. What was he not saying? What did the pattern reveal that he was unwilling to confront? Some psychologists weighed in, suggesting arrested development. A man frozen emotionally at 23, the moment he became famous. Perhaps he could never move past that. Perhaps he was still that boy from Titanic, trying to recreate the adoration he once felt. Others were less generous. "It's narcissism," they said. "Younger women are less likely to challenge you, less likely to expect emotional maturity, more likely to admire and defer, to let you remain the star of your own life." And that, for a man like Leonardo, became the entire appeal at 51. Leonardo DiCaprio stands at the apex of everything he once dreamed of achieving. An Oscar winner, a cinematic legend whose filmography reads like a masterclass in acting, a fortune exceeding $300 million, properties across multiple continents, partnerships with cinema's greatest directors. He is selective now in ways only the truly successful can afford to be. One film every few years, only if the director, script, and vision meet his exacting standards. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Don't Look Up, Killers of the Flower Moon. Each performance measured and deliberate, proof that age has only sharpened his abilities. By every measurable metric, he has won, and yet, a question hangs in the air during quiet moments away from cameras. What was it all for? His peers from the Titanic era have moved into different chapters. Matt Damon has 4 daughters. Ben Affleck navigated fatherhood. Brad Pitt built a family. Even George Clooney eventually married and had children. Leonardo has none of that. No wife, no children, no legacy beyond the films, no one to carry his name into the future, no one to inherit the foundation he spent decades building. "I'm married to my work," he has said in interviews. A line that sounds romantic until you realize it is also a confession of isolation. Friends describe him as generous and thoughtful, deeply committed to his causes. But they also describe a man who keeps people at arm's length, who trusts few, who has built walls so high that even those closest to him wonder if they truly know him. He's lonely. One longtime friend admitted off the record. He would never say it, but you can see it. All the yachts, all the parties, all the models. It's filling space that something else should occupy. And I don't think he knows what that something is. The absence of children haunts him in ways he may not even fully comprehend. When he is gone, his films will remain, but the man himself will vanish into history. There is a particular cruelty to winning everything professionally while losing almost everything personally. Leonardo DiCaprio's story is not a tragedy in the classical sense, but it is not a triumph either. It is something more complicated, more human, and far more haunting. He escaped poverty. He conquered Hollywood. He won the Oscar. He donated $100 million to save a planet. He built a filmography that will be studied for generations. By every measure society offers, he succeeded, and yet, the question refuses to disappear. At what cost? The boy who grew up dodging needles on Hollywood Boulevard became a man who cannot walk down any street without being swarmed. The actor who fought for respect became so famous that respect felt meaningless when it finally arrived. The environmentalist who warns of catastrophe flies private jets to deliver the warning. The romantic lead of a generation has never allowed anyone close enough to grow old with him. Leonardo DiCaprio gave everything to perfection. And perfection, it turns out, is a jealous master. It demanded his privacy, his youth, his chance at a normal life, his ability to trust, his willingness to be vulnerable with anyone who was not a camera. He won the Oscar, but he lost the anonymity that makes life bearable. He saved rainforests, but he could not save himself from the contradictions of being both activist and celebrity. He dated the most beautiful women in the world, but he never let any of them know the man behind the legend. Perhaps the deepest truth of his existence is this: Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the most watched people on Earth, remains almost entirely unseen. We know his characters. We know his causes. We know his patterns, but we do not know him. And maybe after 50 years of cameras and scrutiny and performances that stripped him bare on screen, he prefers it that way. His legacy will endure. The films, the foundation. The image of a young man on a ship with his arms spread wide. But the man himself, the one who cried in his mother's arms after rejections, who crawled through frozen rivers for validation, who built walls so high even he cannot see over them. That man remains a mystery, and perhaps the saddest part is this: Leonardo DiCaprio spent his entire life proving he was worthy of love, and in the process, he forgot to let anyone actually love him at all. Now the question turns to you. What will you take from his journey? That fame is not fulfillment. That success without connection is just decorated emptiness. That sometimes the things we chase hardest leave us loneliest when we finally catch them. Leonardo DiCaprio is not a villain. He is a mirror, a reflection of what happens when talent, ambition, and hunger collide with an industry designed to consume, not to nourish. His story reveals uncomfortable truths about what we value, what we sacrifice, and whether the pedestals we build for our heroes are really just elegant cages. Share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more untold stories that expose the humanity behind the headlines. And remember this, the greatest performances are not always on screen. Sometimes they are the ones we give every single day, convincing the world and ourselves that we are fine. Because behind every legend is a person, flawed, complicated, searching for something that no Oscar, no yacht, no standing ovation can ever provide. And that person is usually just as lost as the rest of us.